So this is a little bonus that we decided to film because we just finished watching all of the season 1 of Westworld.
If you're here because you think this is a review for the movie, this review is not for you. Much like the maze.
But if you look in the description, there will be a link to a review of the movie that we already did. So go check that out.
As part of our regular BFF
Yeah,
shenanigans.
exactly. All right, so what was your first impression of Westworld, the TV show?
I remember when we watched the first episode, I absolutely loved it. However, I remember turning to you after the end of the first episode, and my literal reaction was, if every episode has 7 scenes of Dolores waking up in that same bed, starting her day the same way,
Yes.
I'm out like in 3 episodes.
Yeah, very repetitive on that front. They did that a lot in the early episodes. But then they would try to find different ways to tweak what happened in her day, whether she was interacting with other visitors to the park, or maybe like a visitor distracted Teddy, and so then their narrative wasn't quite the same.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're designed for that, and the whole concept behind it is showing that kind of stuff. But yeah, if I had to see one more scene of her walking downstairs with her little easel, stopping like at that post and talking to her father about the cattle, and then being like, "I'll be back before dark," and knowing, well, she's not going to be back before dark.
Of course not.
If I had to see that again for the next like 9 episodes, like 4 times an episode, I would have given up. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I like how they set up the narrative in the opening where like everybody's on the train, and so especially since we watched the movie first, you just presume everybody on the train is a guest. And we see Teddy, and he's like, oh, she's like, oh, you came back for me. And like, oh, well, maybe she remembers because maybe they kind of program them to remember the guests and that kind of thing. And then we see the man in black, and I automatically assumed, and I'm guessing maybe you did too, like, oh no, like the robot's gonna hurt this guy, and it's gonna start malfunctioning. And then he says something about, like, you can't hurt me. He said it more eloquently, of course, because, HBO writers are better than my writing.
Stage television.
And it's like, oh, and then we see, like, the perspective from Teddy, and then it's, like, the next day, and she has no memory, and then we're like, oh, well, he's a host, sorry.
Okay, yeah. They did a really good job in the first episode, and we'll try and keep the whole review relatively spoilers light. The fact that, like, they really do a fantastic job in the first episode of, like, kind of keeping you guessing on who's a guest and who's a host and everything else. And it's, I don't know, it was really good. It's just, like I said, that annoying little,
Definitely, sorry.
You know how, like, when I was playing Persona 4, and you're like, this game's really cool, but I'm sick and tired of that fight song.
Yes.
It's the same premise to me. Like, the first episode was really good, but I was really sick of seeing Dolores start her day.
And then I like in the second episode when we're introduced to kind of like the dynamic that the main characters in the movie had, where we had like we call him Mary because that's his character's name in Psych.
Yeah, but in the show he's William.
Yeah, William, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Logan.
Yeah, they're like showing up, and Logan has been the experienced one in the park, and you can kind of tell he's like kind of a rich jerk is the nice way to put it.
He's real.
And William seems like a very sensitive person, and we see he's being treated very, I would guess, specially. Like, I doubt like everybody gets their own like private dressing room to get dressed up for the park.
I was under the impression that they did, but
I don't know, but it just seemed very weird to me that it's like, why are we just like, he's all alone, and then we see there's this display of hats, and it's like the white hats, good guys, black hats, bad guys. He's like chooses the white hat, and you see Logan in the black hat. I'm like, yep, that makes total sense. But it reminded me of the characters from the movie, like maybe they're going for that kind of dynamic.
For those that don't know necessarily, it is an old Western tradition that the white hat is the hero and the black hat is the villain of the piece, and it's a clear designation. As Westerns kind of came out further and further, they would have different schemes, or they would change up the trope somewhat.
But that's the general trope.
Yes, like it is a common term. Is white hat is like the paladin of the Old West kind of thing. The virtuous hero.
And then kind of going back to some things that were revealed in the first episode with the whole, like, these violent delights have violent ends. Like, I was intrigued immediately because I picked up on that was Shakespeare from Romeo and Juliet. Like, like, this is very, like, philosophical and, like, very different from the movie where it's not that the robots or the hosts are, like, having some kind of malady where
they're not really having a sentience crisis.
Yes, in the movie, but in this one, like, it's very much like they could all pass a Turing test, and something sinister is going on, but it's not like a disease that's spreading throughout the park like it was in the movie.
Though they refer to it, I think, as a spreading infection kind of thing, but it's really funny because in the movie they're like, it's a disease that the machines have.
A machine get a disease.
And in the movie they make this huge point of like, that's silly. There's no diseases for machines. But and by now we of course know that there's computer viruses.
Yes.
So.
But yeah, I thought all of the casting was brilliant. My favorite host was Clementine. I just loved her.
But we've seen her in other shows as well. Like she was in the show
In Plain Sight.
In Plain Sight on USA.
Yeah, we used to watch a lot of USA back in the day.
I know she was in an episode of like Children's Hospital or something.
Oh, okay.
But like one episode.
All right.
Which is set in Brazil, which is where they are.
Of course, they're in Brazil, duh.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious where in the world this park exists because it expands. Like, it's not just massive. The one little town. It goes across, like...
It's like a state.
Yeah, like, it's as big as a state, so, like, where is this? And I also liked the fact that, like, the narrative is not, like, a linear story. There's a lot of repetitiveness with the robots, but there's also a lot of, like, flashbacks, and you're not sure, like, at all times what's going on.
Yeah.
And then you also get to see a lot of the behind-the-scenes segments with Bernard, like working with the hosts and his boss Teresa and like the other story creator who is such a little whiny.
Yeah.
Like I made this really cool story, and then Anthony Hopkins' character, what's his name again?
We'll take the Ford.
Ford, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, Anthony Ford's just like, he's asking Anthony Hopkins, like, well, is there anything you like about my story? And he's like, what size are those boots? And I'm just like...
And then isn't he walking away in the boots?
Yeah, when they're going for a walk in the very next scene, he's wearing the boots.
But yeah, there's just... And then, like, everybody that works at this place is using the hosts. I don't want to keep like offending them like they're real, like calling them robots, but they're like using the hosts for their own purposes, like for fun times. It's like
there's even a scene where
that's so messed up.
There's even a scene where one of the people from the board of directors shows up and she requests a very specific host to keep her company.
And it's just like it feels so bad because like when they're in the world of Westworld, the park, it's like they are actual human beings, and like it's so sad that they're being taken advantage of.
And when some of them are introduced to the fact that they are not, that they're machines, like some of them have these real crises of like conscience and faith and belief in reality.
And then the programmer will dial back or like reset them so that they don't remember. Yeah, and they are implanted with memories as well. And sometimes it's things that actually happened in their previous role because they get reassigned to different like aspects of the park. Like, oh, well, this isn't working anymore. Well, now you're in this story.
Yep. But yeah, all in all, I absolutely love this show.
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic season, and especially like the twist in the last episode. Like they really caught me off guard with the whole storytelling aspect.
The last 3 episodes have some really big reveals, like 3 to 4 episodes. Like that last chunk of the series, there's a lot in that portion that's just like, holy cow.
Like I didn't even see a lot of it coming. And usually, like with a lot of television, because of my profession, I overanalyze everything. I usually can figure out where something's going, but this definitely like took me off guard. But
Especially
like
that last episode.
But in the best way, I was like, oh man, I never would have predicted that was what was really happening.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a fun time. If you haven't seen Westworld, I don't think we've really given away too many plot points. No, definitely check it out if you do have HBO or know someone that maybe let you.
However you can find access to it, you can get episodes.
Yeah, you're probably more tech savvy than we are.
You should probably watch it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. All right, well that's been a bonus episode of BFF
over Westworld.
Yeah, so. And if you want other bonus material for other episodes we've done, let us know. Like, what do you want us to talk about? We've never really done something quite like this before.
It's a lot of fun.
Because this is a separate recording session from the actual main episode. So, what kind of geeky thing do you want us to talk about?
Yeah.
Let us know. We'll do it.
You can find me on Twitter at Drake Masters.
And you can find me at @Mrs. Davis. We'll see you next time.
Bye.